So my question is about teaching about emotions. I have the opportunity in my workplace to have a whole hour of talking about emotions. And I've taken the emotional scale, Abraham's emotional guidance scale, and incorporated that into my conversation. The one thing that I feel like is hard for me to bring into it is the whole idea of source. Sounds a little too airy-fairy, sounds a little too religious.
Then you're screwed.
I was actually hoping you could help me find.
We wanted to find a softer word, but there isn't one. Well, we get what you mean. You see, everyone that you might run into in a corporate setting or in an educational setting or in a sports setting or almost in any setting, they have been calibrating to each other. And so that's the way most of the world works. Who's the most powerful? We will yield to them out of fear. Or who is the loudest? We will yield to them out of our own insecurity. And so the only way that you can get to any guidance that is good for anyone is to help them to understand that they get to choose what they want. So you got to establish that first, that you get to choose and you are unique. In fact, you are so unique that none of the platforms really apply to you well enough. None of the religious guideposts apply to this mixture of people that you will be talking to. Maybe that's part of the hesitation to leave source out of it, because you've long been encouraged to leave religion out of things like that, because that's surefire disagreement. People have very deep feelings about those things that they've been carrying around for a while. But we want to remind you that there is nothing deeper in anyone that you will ever meet than their own self-interest. And there is nothing more self-interest than the source within you, whose interest is in your thriving and in your well-being. Now that's a big one to get across, because so many people are observing their now world, their now life, their now city, their now government, their now politics, their now whatever's going on, and they're not sure that well-being is the order of the day and that they can trust that. And so we know you got a lot of splaining to do before anyone would really feel it. So you could approach it with, this is the way sports approaches it. They talk about being in the zone. And there's a lot of evidence where people talk about something just coming over them, and they had a power within them. They had greater clarity. You could look for examples of those hand-eye coordinations that were sometimes terrible. It's amazing how these NBA players can be at the free throw line with no one jumping around them and still miss the basket that they have made so many times. But it's because they're not in the zone. They're not tuned in. They don't have access to that, because when you're tuned in, when you're in that zone, all of your muscles, all of your ligaments, all of your ability to see and calculate, it all comes together, and you're able to do something that you didn't even know you were doing, because it wasn't conscious in the sense that it was your mind. It was your mind that was doing it in the zone. You can talk about gut feeling. That time that I just had that strong feeling, I just knew it with everything. There was nothing in the world and it happened so fast, I responded to that overarching feeling. That's what you're reaching for. You're reaching for that knowing within you, and call it whatever you want. You could call it guidance. You could call it source. You could call it tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You could call it gut feeling. You could call it intuition. You could call it just a moment in time. You could call it magic if you want to. But everyone has had those moments when they know something, they responded, because you can't ask anyone to trust you about what you're saying, because words don't teach. It's only life experience that teaches. So you're looking for evidence, anecdotal evidence, maybe you might say. You're looking for evidence that others have heard about before or have experienced themselves. Esther remembers And it wasn't anything about Abraham talking to her in the moment or saving them. Jerry and Esther were at a stoplight. Jerry was going to turn left, and the light was green. It was time for him to go. And Jerry hesitated, and Esther felt like wanting to hold him back too. And at that moment, a car going faster than they could even calculate passed them on the left, came up over the hill, passed them on the left, and surely would have T-boned them if Jerry had followed the green light. And they didn't stop and say, "Thank you, Abraham," or "Thank you, Source Energy," even though they had been working with us. They knew that they had, at some broader, higher level, information that they could not see with their eyes. There was no way to know that, and yet they knew it. That's what you're wanting them to tap in. What you know, that you have no reason to know it, you just know it. You can approach it that way. Everybody, haven't you all had that? You don't have to label it. In fact, the less labels you give to things, the less grief people will give you. That's what we were having fun about the bumper stickers. You're just asking for a debate. How much fun was that, really? Helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you.
That's exactly what I needed, because I've been feeling, I just talked to a friend this morning before I came here, and it was, well, Abraham says I should be selfish.
No, Abraham said you are selfish. You cannot see other than through the perspective of self. You cannot know the combining of another's inner being and them in a moment. You cannot know where they are on their path of what they want. You cannot know anyone else's level of allowing of what they want. You can't know it. It's impossible. You cannot know it.
It's kind of fun just knowing that it's my responsibility to everything else it is to just be joyful and have fun and play with it.
Let's talk about this selfish thing. This could use a little massaging. So we've been accused of being selfish, of encouraging you to be selfish and of being selfish, and it's true. Because we know that we all only have perspective of self. Self-interest is a real thing. So let's say that you have a product, just for an easy to explore analogy. You have a product that you have found beneficial to you. You believe in it, and you know that it has benefit to others, and they don't know it, but you know it. And you would like them to what? I would like them to buy it. Well, we can see how that would be your selfish perspective from wanting money in your bank. So you could be a human not connected to source energy very well, selfishly wanting them to buy your product, and you would be selfish, and others would not really appreciate your selfishness in that regard. But if you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on with source, and you have really experienced the benefit of this product, and you want others to experience the benefit of this product, now you're in connection with your inner being and with their inner being. And when you're selfish like that, now the law of attraction, because your inner being is gathering the cooperative components to the benefit that you're wanting to offer to others. Would your inner being draw money to your bank account? Yes, of course. We're just pointing out that you can be selfishly pointed and not in alignment, or you could be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and be selfishly attracting from your connected. You could be wanting love from your selfish connected perspective, or you could be wanting to get rid of everybody not just like you from your selfish not connected perspective. And so let's not just take the word selfish and say it's good or bad. Let's talk about it in terms of path of most allowance or path of most resistance. You see what we're getting at? And that's why once you find resonance with who you are, you stabilize there. You're there a lot of the time, or most of the time. Then you just watch this stream of lovely things coming to you. And others who are watching you thrive could jealously pronounce you as selfish. And if you were to admit to it, they might not appreciate that very much. But when you know that your selfishness means, what is the ultimate selfish? The ultimate selfish is to want to be my true self. That's what we meant earlier when we said everything that you want is because you think you will feel better in the having of it. You want to feel good. You want to be the whole of who you are. And that's when, through the clarity of your example, you emanate a vibration that those who are ready for hook up with. So what are we getting at here, room full of teachers? If you're running around wanting to attract people to your teachings, a lot of teachers and healers in this crowd. If you're running around wanting to attract people to your teachings, to what you know, to what resonates with you, to what humans call healing, which we call being who you really are, then just tune to what feels good. If that means be playful, you're uplifting the world. If that means soothe yourself, you're uplifting the world. If that means prosper, you're uplifting the world. If that means climb South Mountain and live to tell about it, you're uplifting the world. It's so nice when you hook into this absolute knowing of who you are. And the comparisons of your world only benefit you in sharpening your palette of opportunities. You don't compare out of jealousy or out of one-upsmanship. You compare out of combining, out of co-creating. Don't worry about those who are not hearing it today or hearing what you have to say today. Don't worry about them. They all have inner beings, and their inner beings are calling them, and they have those moments. You really don't want to try to push, and this is the point of our friend earlier. You don't want to push anyone past their ability to hear, or you've done them no service at all. You want to meet them where they are and be who you are with your clarified bag of marbles, understanding that the law of attraction and their inner being and your inner being and the path of least resistance or the path of most allowance will connect them to what you're offering, because that's the way the law of attraction works. It cannot go wrong. It cannot go wrong. You just don't have to worry about it.